Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the Beyond Bitcoin show. Today is August the 15th, 2020. Strong hand, unconfiscatable. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Do not accept a new normal. Fitting in is overrated. Personal responsibility is the new counterculture. All right, conviction. We are in that golden age. Be relentless, people. Hello, my elite friends. If you have questions, I have answers. Type in my name, get my attention somehow in the chat. I will answer your questions. Make sure it turns a color so I can see you. And yeah, Taval Dakris is in the house. He says, pound that like button. Indeed. Okay, and let's just jump into the show right now. This is a very important statistic from someone named Kerpen. And I think I left this out by accident of the, I'm going to have to add this to the links below. Everything else is in the links below. I'll add this after the show, but take my word for it. The CDC says 25.5% of Americans aged 18 to 24 seriously considered suicide in the past 30 days. And 16% of Americans aged 25 to 44 considered suicide in the last 30 days. And this was, I think, the last 30 days being sometime in June. It took a while for them to compile these statistics. It was a survey, etc. That's way high, okay? Over a quarter of Americans between 18 and 24, the freaking prime of your life. Well, actually 27 is the prime of your life, but you're in such great shape. You should be loving life when you're between the ages of 18 and 24, okay? And 16% of age 25 to 44, that's definitely the prime of your life right there. Now, why are they all of a sudden suicidal, these many Americans? Why do you think? There's a manufactured crisis going on. They've lost their jobs. They're scared. This is something that people are like, we need to save at least one life. If we shut down the entire economy and we save one life, it's worth it. They don't understand what this causes. Okay, look at this. These are tremendous numbers. Now they've seriously considered it, and sadly, some of them have went through with it, which is horrible, absolutely horrible. It is never the answer, never the answer. So. Yes, we're living through a manufactured crisis right now. There is a real illness out there. But we got to be big boys and girls and not take away people's jobs and try to micromanage, not have to depend on the government. And because when you start to give your power, your say over to the government, your sovereignty over to them, this is what happens. It's quite disturbing, that statistic, and that's from the CDC, which is a government organization. Track that right there. So for the people who just blindly scream, "You're going to kill my grandma," dude. We're 18 to 44 is the prime of your life. You shouldn't be putting these people in horrible positions because you're scared. You can't take care of your grandma. Okay, so. Trending under Twitter the other day, this kind of sums it all up. Under politics, it said under politics in Twitter, do something. That's all that was. It said do something, and that just shows how dependent people are today. It sums up everything nicely. The majority of people, or not a huge chunk of people out there in the Western world today, because they're so freaked out and scared, they want the government to do something. You do something, dude. You manage. Personal responsibility is the new counterculture here. Clearly, the mainstream culture is begging the government to do something, thinking the government is going to solve your problems. When the government does something, you end up with statistics like the statistics I just shared, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, you're not able to measure all of the horrible things that have been caused by this shutdown. Okay, people going wild in their heads. Okay. Unfortunately, normal life for a lot of people is totally gone. Now, for me, I've set up my life in a way where but it doesn't really make that big of a difference for me. I still am traveling around. I'm getting discounts. Things are cheaper for me now. It's pretty cool. But I understand that the majority of people out there, they didn't plan ahead for something like this. They work for other people, and when they suddenly lose their job, it's pretty bad. And then they become more dependent on the government, and it's becoming more and more popular to beg the government to do something. Do nothing. Do nothing. You shouldn't have done anything in the first place. You should have done nothing and let people manage their own freaking risk, okay? My lord. But that's what's trending on Twitter. And of course, Twitter's biased. They can pick whatever they want to trend. It's a little skewed over there, obviously, but still, a lot of people begging the government, do something. Okay, so here's a reminder from Alan Lewis. Weird pandemic where you have to constantly browbeat people to remind them how bad it is. Good point there. It is kind of a weird, when you think about a pandemic, you don't think you have to constantly remind people how bad things are. But that's what's going on. The government constantly reminds us of how bad things are. The media reminds us of how bad things are. Imagine if the government and the media and the social media freaks out there, if they weren't reminding people how bad things were. It would be as if things weren't very bad, were they? And because things aren't very bad in terms of the virus. They're not bad. They're not. People die. That's life, okay? There are all sorts of challenges have come about in modern civilizations. Illnesses, storms, natural disasters, etc. We deal with it. We aren't constantly reminded about it. It is manufactured. Hysteria is clearly manufactured, and it's a bad sign. Was the next thing? The hysteria will even be bigger, won't it? And more people are going to fall for it, aren't they? Keep speaking out against it. Keep being a unique beast and speaking the truth, people. All right. So that was a great tweet. We're going to talk about Joe Biden in a second. Taval Dakar says, when the Floyd situation happened, it's like COVID went away for 2 weeks. This is all big brainwashing. Taval, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. When the Floyd situation happened and the media covered it nonstop, they covered the riots afterwards. And people were not social distancing. No, yeah, a part of me thought, oh, okay, they're just going to move on to this now. We're going to forget about the virus, but they came back to it. They did come back to it. But you got the point, Tabal, doctors. You got the point, indeed. Without the media's reminder, it would not be a major existential threat to so many freaking people out there, and causing all these side problems. And it's serious. It's a very serious. I say side problem. It's a very serious problem when so many people are considering suicide. Okay, so let's talk about someone who might rejoin the government very soon in the United States. His name is Joe Biden, and I knew this about Joe Biden, but what I'm about to share with you. But then I started thinking, how many other people actually know about this? You would think the media would bring this up, maybe question him about it, since he hasn't been acting very normal lately. It's as if he's suffering from a dementia. And well, here we go. In 1988, Joe Biden suffered 2 brain aneurysms. I'm not making this up, people. One, and I've known this for one on the right side and one on the left. Each requires surgery with high risk of long-term impact on brain functionality. This is linked to below. You can read about it. You can Google it yourself. In February 1988, after suffering from several episodes of increasingly severe neck pain, Biden was taken by long-distance ambulance to Walter Reed Army Medical Center and given life-saving surgery to correct an intracranial berry aneurysm that had begun leaking. While recuperating, he suffered a pulmonary embolism, a major complication. Another operation to repair a second aneurysm, which had caused no symptoms but was at risk of bursting, was performed in May 1988. The hospitalization and recovery kept Biden from his duties in the Senate for 7 months. Okay, so he was a much younger man in 1988. Okay, 32 years ago. He was in his 40s then, right? That's a very serious situation he went through. And after that, he was a pretty normal guy. I mean, in terms of being a politician and everything. But if you look at it statistically here, okay, someone who had a major brain situation and major brain surgery 32 years ago, it's likely that they would be more likely to suffer earlier dementia or brain-related, even with the best medical in the world, which he has, someone that's gone through such a situation and lived a full life since then, definitely, would be more likely to deteriorate at a younger age than many people. Now, he's not a young man. Or why aren't there questions about this aspect? Because I know a lot of people joke about it. Oh, he's living in a basement. He's senile. He's this. He's that. He's the other. But they don't go like, well, why might he have this? Why might he really be senile? Well, because in 1988 they had to rip his head open and do a lot of things to his brain. It was very, very serious. And it said right here, he and there was risk of long-term impact on brain functionality. Now, did he have major impact on his brain functioning? No, he didn't. There wasn't anything major in the last 32 years, but now maybe some of the major complications are coming about. Okay, it's just, it shows you, the media is supposed to dig here. Okay, they're supposed to dig deep. This is something that is it's not a hidden thing. Everybody, this has been out there for, why aren't they talking about this now? Now that it appears that he's having some issues with his brain. Okay, so there you go. You can check it out for yourself right there. Something else I was going to say about 1988 and one thing I didn't. He was running for president. He was going to run for president in 1988. And in 1987, they caught that he had lied about papers that he wrote. He didn't really write papers, or he copied other people's speeches. There was plagiarism. There was plagiarism accusations. So he dropped out of the 88 race in 1987, and that saved his life, actually. Because had he just continued campaigning, he probably would not have seek help for his head hurting, for the problems he was having. He probably just would have had he probably would have died on the campaign trail. So it saved his life that he got caught for plagiarism. And no one brings up his plagiarism either, but that's normal. All the politicians straight up lie about everything. So being a guy who practiced plagiarism, that's not a big deal anymore. It should be. It shows it's a lot about your character right there, but that's not a big thing. Because the current president of the United States has little character. He cheats on his wives, et cetera, et cetera. So plagiarism, cheating on your wives, it's all bad stuff. But that's the state of the. That's why you don't put these dudes on pedestals. Okay, pound that like button. So again, I don't care. It's not a big deal who becomes president. To me, it's the bigger story is that it's like this never happened. The media doesn't feel the need to talk about this. Does anyone do any research anymore? I don't know. Where's the hard hitting investigating reporting there? What are my thoughts on porn? Says Taval. Well, when I was a teenager and stuff, 15-year-old boys really like that kind of stuff. I'll say that when I was like 15, 14 or whatever, that was cool. But no, it's really bad. It's not good. People have become addicted to it and stuff. You're not thinking. I think people use it as almost an excuse to. If you want to hang with, if you like women, meet real women. Come on, meet real women. This is if you're at the prime, if you're in your 20s and stuff, don't waste away your 20s doing that. If you're interested in women that much, then meet the real thing. Then meet the real thing and try it out. Now, for some people, that maybe it can. If the women are voluntarily doing it, that's fine. I wouldn't want to deal with a woman that was in that situation. I wouldn't want a porn star to be my wife or anything. But I personally don't watch it. I think it's a waste of time. And also, guys, in this time of security, and if you go to these sites, you're more likely to download a virus onto your computer and have people hack into your computer. Why even mess with it? Why even mess with it? Don't become addicted to it at the very least. People really get addicted. I understand if you need to see something every once in a while, but I gotta be honest here, dudes. In the modern day, in just modern normal media, you just Google Kim Kardashian. She's almost naked anyway. The stuff that's on regular media, regular internet, non-porn stuff, you see everything anyway. I don't know. I'm not a fan at all. I understand why young boys, but you grow up after a while. you do grow up after a while. But if you are a person that has a condition and you're not going to meet any ladies, or maybe if you're old or something, yeah, I mean, okay, I can see it as a release. But if you're in your prime of your life, yeah, please don't become addicted to it. All right. Good. Interesting question. Interesting question there, Tavala Docrace. Now, it's a good question for the Beyond Bitcoin show. It really is. Now, and I think if you know a lady who's going into it, who's interested in stripping or in porn, and they can make a lot of money, when they're in the prime of their life, but you got to tell them that this is your reputation here. That if you think you can go back to normal life after this, you really can't. I don't see how psychologically they can, and many men will. There are some guys that are going to accept them, but those might not be quality men. They might get rejected, and they might not end up with what they. Why do they need the money that desperately in the first place? Is another question. I discourage ladies from. I don't look upon that as a good profession to get into whatsoever, and guys to try to avoid it at all costs. And it's I will say this. I mean, it's unfortunate that people don't have the option right now to go to the strip club anymore. I think they're all, or they in many cities they're totally shut down. And that was a fun thing to do when I was 20 years old. I liked going to the strip club. That was a cool thing. I mean, because you couldn't drink yet, but you could go to the strip club, so that was kind of cool. But I learned early on, like, wait a second. I can just get the real. I don't have to pay. Why am I paying a cover to see naked women? I can see naked women for free if I meet women and get them to get their clothes off for me. Like in a social situation. So, but again, some guys get. Las Vegas is just so. Oh God, it is all over the place. It's the stripping and the pornography. And people just go to an extreme there. They just take it all out there, and to a level that they never would before, just because they're in Vegas. Personal responsibility, dude. You're going to end up in trouble in some of those situations, in some of those strip bars. And by the way, when I was 20 years old and I went to the strip bar in Baltimore, I almost ended up in big trouble. I think I told this story before. 2 of us were 20, 2 of us were 21. I mean, we grew up together and everything. So the 21-year-olds were pushing or giving us beer. We're handing the beer over to us. And this bouncer, who was like 400 pounds, he came over to us and he threatened our lives. So we stopped doing that. I remember. All right, found that like that. Going back, I remember, play this at 2x, people. If you don't, that was a little interlude there that I didn't plan, the stripping and pornography part. But hey, if you don't like that, we're going to get back to the virus stuff right now. And so if you're watching this tape, you can jump all around. We're going to get to Israel. It's an hour show. It's an hour show. So you can please play it at 2x. Please skip around. The subject matters. They're all linked to below, the links that tell you more. There's nothing about stripping below that. Okay, I can add something if you'd like me to. Now, and yes, so I've not been to a strip club since I was 20 years old. All right, now here's the great Alex Berenson has a great thread. I'm going to read it real fast about the virus. It's really good. It's really good here. Okay. I'm increasingly convinced that the virus is a creation of the media technology complex. No, I don't mean it's not real or it was bioengineered. What I mean is, aside from a couple of weeks in a handful of cities worldwide, including the world's media capital, the overall effects of this epidemic have essentially been impossible for the average person to see without a microscope. Hospitals are not overflowing. Bodies are not piling up in the streets. Most of us will never know anyone under 55, 65, 70 who has died of COVID. But instead, many people feel like the world is ending. Why? More than anything else, it's the obsessive, almost sordid fascination with death counts, updated in real time and presented without context, without the average age of the victims, how many people generally die in a year, etc. Why are we counting deaths this way? We've never done this for any other illness, never. And there are lots of reasons, but maybe the most important is that we're doing this largely because we can, because the technology now exists to aggregate these counts almost instantly. And then both conventional and social media are blasting out these figures, not just every day, but every second, from CNN to Death Meter to the New York Times, heat maps to everyone screaming on Twitter. True story. At this point, the virus worldwide is slightly worse than a bad flu year. Pound that like button. That is linked to below. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's media manufactured hysteria. So let's go back to life in general. In life, most people settle. Okay, they give up. They settle. There's a guy out there named Don Watkins. I linked to his channel below. I learned about him from Yaron Brook. Again, I'm not a slave to the algorithm. I actually look up people that are mentioned on shows. So I found Don Watkins. I'm still exploring him a little bit, but I like what he said here, okay? That your goal should be, you're only going to settle when you're 100% happy, or when you're 99% happy, okay? That's when you settle. Just you keep striving. Most people, the point, 100%, 99%, that's pretty darn good, okay, for settling at that point. But most people out there, I mean, they settle. They're like, okay, this is my life. I'm 33% happy. That's it. This is the way life is. I'm fitting in. I'm not striving for four. And that's how you become a slave of fitting in. And you start to worship authority because you settle. You settle on where you are in life in terms of happiness, in terms of accomplishments, and you just like, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm going to do what everyone else is doing. I'm going to listen to, I'm not going to think anymore. There's no need because I'm 33% happy. I don't need to additionally think. So this is a term I'm going to use more of, I think. Don't settle. Just do not settle. Never settle. Never give up. But what we have today in this world is most people definitely settle. Now, Taval again says the scary part of the whole virus predicament is that we've now set any new virus that appears now will have the running in our homes for. So you're saying that the next one that comes up will have us running in our homes for lockdown like we're in a penitentiary. Yes, I agree that this has set the stage for a future one that people will be even more freaked out, because that is this is like the base level right now. Okay, it's been set, and unfortunately people go, oh, at that time we panicked. So yeah, that's what we do in these situations. Terrible. But again, that's why we need to speak up now and just say how ridiculous this is, and try to teach people that, just keep on using your heads. Keep on using your heads. Now, I got an email because I've used Lyft before. I don't have a phone. I do it through my laptop. I've had to when I had to use it in Spokane. Spokane, good place. But Lyft emails me, and of course, since Lyft is a major corporation, they have to do this SJW stuff. So they have Valerie Jarrett is on her board. So it looks like I get an email from Valerie Jarrett, okay? And you can look at the blog post that basically says the same thing Valerie Jarrett said in her email to me. Let me get to the point here. Transportation access for Black communities is what this is about. They're virtue signaling that they like Black people, and look at us. We care about Black people. We're going to talk about transportation in Black communities, and we have Valerie Jarrett on our board. So we're awesome. We're SJWs. We're virtue signaling. So I agree with some of this message here, though. I want to break it down here. As a community, we need to remove the barriers that prevent people from accessing essential necessities and opportunities, which is why today I'm excited to announce that I will be chairing a new initiative called the Lift Up Access Alliance. Lyft is joining forces with impact-driven organizations that will connect us to individuals who can benefit the most. So Lyft is giving some poverty pimp organizations some publicity. They're probably giving them some money. It could be much simpler, okay? If you want to give people access to transportation, okay, in a time where the government is interfering in everything. All right, and this is what you do. And in Baltimore, if you go to the Safeway, well, if you used to go to the Safeway on Charles Street and 25th, or you used to go to Mondawmin Mall, we have something called hacks. Okay, hacks are older gentlemen that drive around in their cars, and they pick up people who need rides, and they give them cash. Okay, because in some communities, taxi drivers are scared that they're going to get jacked. Okay, but people fill the void. Okay, if there was a free market, if we didn't have all these regulations about if Lyft can be here and cab drivers can be here and Uber can be here and they have to get a special license, if you got rid of all that and just say, hey, you got a car, we're going through a very bad situation here that the government's created. We're going to get rid of all the regulations. They should get rid of them forever and ever. But okay, I understand they need the bribery of the cab companies and Uber to bribe them and Lyft to bribe them, et cetera, et cetera. Because when you have these regulations, it keeps out entrepreneurs. And you say you're concerned about people in the Black community that aren't making money now, okay? So what this would do if you got rid of all the regulation, instead of Lyft, your virtue signaling saying, hey, we're going to give all these free rides to people, which they're not exactly going to do. Just get rid of the regulation and let any guy in the community just drive around, and if someone needs a ride, you give them a ride. They give you $5, you give them a ride. You make a deal right there, then and there. Okay, that's how you do it. Now now in some cities, I think in Baltimore they actually do crack down on the hacking and stuff. It's illegal rides. That's what hacking is. So in Baltimore, sometimes you'll see people doing this. They're looking for the hack. But so Lyft has the virtue signal. They have to say they care. But I mean, this is a real answer. I'm giving you the real answer here, okay? So yeah, they list all the people that they're teaming up with. My Brother's Keeper Alliance, U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, NAACP, United, I can't say that word, College Fund. Oh, man. I remember at my school, my high school, they would sometimes bring up the United, I'm not going to say that word, College Fund, and the guy in charge of our school, he actually was called the headmaster. They've gotten rid of that term now, the head. But at private schools, they'd have headmasters, and he was this old dude. And when he would say that word, oh, it was so cringeworthy. So I don't like saying that word. It's a name that people used to use for Black people in the 40s. It's a ridiculous word, but they haven't changed the name of that, or maybe they have now. The United, I'm not saying that word, College Fund. Now, together we will provide access to 1.5. This is the fine print. Together we will provide access to 1.5 million rides. Okay, that is the fine print. I'll get to that. Helping underserved Black communities to get a network of critical resources and services to ensure that we all emerge stronger and more empowered on the other side. Again, if you want Black people to be stronger and more empowered, then get rid of all this regulation and let them start their own businesses. Okay, like their own car service businesses. Okay, but right now they can't, and you've taken away their other. Some had jobs, and you've closed down where they worked. So. Okay, so let's get to the small print here. Lyft and its Lyft Up programs and partnerships will collectively help provide access to an estimated 1.5 million car, bike, and scooter rides, calculated based on average cost of each mode through 2024 to help people in need reach food, essential jobs, and services. Okay, so they're not giving away 1.5 million car rides tomorrow. It's over a 4-year span, and it includes scooter rides and bike rides. All right, very very nice virtue signaling. You're great, dude. Get rid of regulation at a time like this. You'll see all sorts of new businesses prop up in all sorts of community, be them Black communities, white communities, Asian communities, whatever. But hey, Lyft, you virtue signaled, and you have Valerie Jarrett on your board, and thus I guess you don't have to pay the blackmail to certain organizations or as much as you would, and you won't get BLM like protesting on your front stoop or something. I don't know. Okay, so so people want the government to do something. If they got rid of regulation, that's undoing something. So that's great. That's the government do. Less regulation is less of the government doing something. So I mentioned on the previous show that Donald Trump got rid of some rules, federal housing rules, which allowed the federal government to interfere on a local level and place public housing in go out of its way to put public housing in suburban neighborhoods, purchase housing and let people live there for free who could never afford to live there, and thus had no responsibility, no skin in the game whatsoever. So, and I have seen this in so many times, being in Baltimore City and a little bit in the county too. When you give housing away for free, and people don't understand how to take care of it, they have no skin in the game. They don't take care of it, and the behavior is incredibly antisocial, to say the very least. So Trump knew if he got rid of this, he's really into appealing to the suburban housewives, okay, because they hate it, and he knows they like safety, and he does know that there are a lot of people out there in the suburbs are tired. For the last 12 years, all of a sudden, since Obama became president in 2008, or a little bit after that, all of a sudden there were all public housing was popping up all over these neighborhoods where they're $300,000, $400,000 houses, and bringing down the value and just bringing very irresponsible people to the neighborhood. Okay. And so he says the suburban housewife will be voting for me. They want safety and are thrilled that I ended the long-running program where low-income housing would invade their neighborhood. Biden would reinstall it in a bigger form with Cory Booker in charge. Okay, so the media was forced to cover it after he said this, because as I think they're hesitant there. So they try to spin the race angle. Of course, they try to spin the race angle on it. But this is a responsibility thing, dudes. You give anybody free housing, okay? They're not going to take care of it like the person who paid $400,000 next door, okay? So I bring this up again because the media did cover it, but then it disappears again, because this is something. He's onto something here. He is onto something. This does appeal to people. So when he's throwing it in their faces. And that's really the way he phrased it there. It is totally an in-your-face type of thing. The media is going to try to spin it at that point, but then they forget about it again. They're going to. So we'll see how this. We'll see how this develops here. But it's interesting that it did because it is a major change. It is definitely. Now he should have done this when he became president. It should have been changed right away. Again, it's not doing something. It's getting rid of something that was already done. There shouldn't be federal housing interference on the local level. There shouldn't be public housing, period. All right. Pound that like button. Now, here is Lou Holtz, an old school college football coach. I agree with what he says here. We got to move on with this country. He's talking about college football. The players want to play, the coaches want to coach, but the president said no because it's the safe thing. Okay, Lou, this is great. It's finally someone in sports is speaking up against this ridiculousness that's out there. Now, college football, some of the conferences have already said college conferences are already shutting down. All right, football has been canceled at the Big Ten, and how are they going to fund their programs? How are they going to fund their athletic programs? This college football brings in so much money. Huge revenue hits, okay? Huge revenue hits. These kids, they go to school just to play football, okay? They're not there to learn, but some of them actually do learn while they're there, okay? And this is messing up a lot of kids' lives. These kids aren't going to get the disease, okay? They're in the prime of their lives. It's ridiculous, the overreaction. And these are all self-inflicted wounds by these colleges. Do they expect a federal bailout? I mean, college football generates huge portions of the athletic budget at some of these schools and the regular budget. Things are going to be, there's no normal if you're a normal person, but for these colleges, there's going to be a new normal if they're totally cutting off their revenue source. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And so Lou Holtz, good for you. And Jerry Jones, good for you. What you said here, the Cowboys plan to play at their home games in front of fans. So the NFL is going to have a season, but no one knows if they're going to be fans in person. And Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, says he plans to play all their games in front of fans. So yeah, that huge stadium, close to 100,000 people could fit on in it in the right configuration. Yeah, why don't you have 50,000 people in it? He should have 100. I have no problem with him having 100,000 people in it. Okay, why not? It's just people make the choice on their own. If they want to go see the Cowboys, they go see the Cowboys. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's. The government shouldn't say, "Oh no, you can't fill your 100,000 state seats. You can't have anyone in your 100,000." These baseball games are ridiculous looking. Good job by the Orioles, by the way. This shows you when you play a 60-game season that should be 162 games. And teams that are bad, like the Orioles, can get off to really good starts. We'll see how it goes, baby. I'm enjoying that aspect of it, but it's sad to see Camden Yards empty. It should be filled. Well, it wouldn't be. You get my point. I mean, there should be people there. There should be people there. They're playing well. There'd be quite a few people there. All right. And people, I'm interested to see how fast people get tired. I hear the NBA ratings are pretty bad, so I would assume people are tired of the politics that have been infused onto the BLM nonsense that's been infused into the NBA. I don't watch it. I don't have a team. I don't care. Now I don't waste my time with that. Nor should you. Okay, if you're going to waste time on politics, by the way, and you really shouldn't. But you can't make a change at the federal level, okay? I mean, unless you're like a billionaire, and then you can have some influence, I guess. But if you're not a billionaire, which I think most of you are, local level, okay? Local level, you change your city council a little bit, you get some ordinances, rid of some ordinances, you get rid of some regulation. You can make a difference in your life, a little difference. I don't think it's worth the time at all, though. I don't think it's worth the time and effort. But I'm just saying, if you're a politics addict, okay, well, do a little local, okay, and see what you think. That'll make a little bit of a difference. I think it can. All right. So we live in an unthinking world. If TV or the YouTube algorithm generates an ad, okay, it doesn't mean it's true. If you blindly believe every ad that you see on TV, every ad that you see on YouTube, you feel the need to click on it. You feel like, oh, this looks like a good deal. Just because if it's on TV, if it's on YouTube, it must be true. And I should buy this. I should consider this. It's amazing how impressionable people are, because so many people, I think more and more people are becoming slaves to that type of thing. They see something on TV, or there's a certain segment of the population, they feel like they have to buy it. And I'm bringing this up because the YouTube algorithm is so, it manipulates people. It manipulates the 80%er so much, and it's really good at it to a point where they think these Ethereum scams are real. It's really wild stuff. People are not using their heads anymore. They're letting these algorithms think for them. It is really scary. And it just, people are very impressionable these days, and they're just delegating all their responsibility to algorithms, to the government. If the government says there's a disease, then there's a disease. If the algorithm says you watch this advertising, you watch this show next, you do this, you're going to watch X, Y, and Z, I'm going to do it. All right. It's really weird that people, for me, it's really strange not to use your head. So you are definitely a unique beast if you're still using your brain. Remember, you unique beast, and if you want to use your brain, check out all the links below. This Week in Bitcoin was awesome. We had Al's Lacrosse on, David Bennett and Adam Hoddleberry were on the Friday show. You're watching this on my backup channel. Obviously, my main channel has been back since the middle of June. DisruptMeister.com, you can see everything combined. Sportsmeister.com, you can listen to everything combined. I do some flashback shows here on the backup channel during the regular week, so just click on Proud Zionist Jew there, and you'll see some of that stuff. Here is and yeah, TechBalt on Twitter, TechBalt, techbalt.com. And seriously, disrupt my check out those links. I don't want to be wasting my breath here. I'm trying to get you guys to use your brains, use your heads, and retweet this. And Roman Q says, and this is great, YouTube ads are the new infomercials. Yeah, dude, in a sense they are. People used to really love those infomercials, and they would call the 1-800 number and buy the stuff immediately. And some of these YouTube ads, that's what they're falling for, that type of stuff. What do we got here? Why is Sportsmeister not HTTPS? Well, just type in Sportsmeister. I don't know. It's the way it's hosted by because it forwards you to another site. It forwards you to my YouTube page. That's why. I believe that's why. Because there's not really a sportsmeister.com site. It's just a cover for my YouTube page. That's probably why. It just takes you somewhere. Well, yeah, Sportsmeister doesn't take you to my YouTube. It takes you to the Anchor page. It takes you to the Anchor.fm page. It's a cover. Well, what's the word? Okay. Now, so this guy, it's safe. It's all safe. Now, this is just an Anchor page. Now, Anchor, the podcasting company. The default math class in high school should be statistics instead of calculus. That's from A. Austin. I agree with that, man. If only more people understood statistics. We're seeing that not many people get statistics at all. They are totally clueless. I think it would be a great for the average American to have a better grasp of statistics. And statistics are actually it's easier than calculus. It's easier than calculus. I think more people will be better off taking a statistics class than taking a calculus class. Buying over crying is something I just came up with. It's the true in motion lifestyle, baby. Okay, instead of just being there, being a tree and screaming, "Water me!" crying, "Water me, government." The tree says to water me. But if you're in motion, if you're buying, baby, you find your own water. You create more water and you freaking sell that water, baby. Because that's the different lifestyle out there. So be in motion. Don't cry in the Bitcoin. All these people crying about Bitcoin. You should be buying Bitcoin instead of crying. And you shouldn't be a tree begging for water. You should be in motion. Find your own water. If you have to move from Cleveland to Nevada, then you got to do it. All right. And then you find your own water and you create more water and you sell that freaking water. Pound that like button. Now, Alex Berenson quotes a CUCK, who is actually, I think the CUCK is from New York. And apparently this guy was serious about the statement that I'm about to read. It sounds like it's a joke, that he's making fun of New Zealand, which you should be. You should be shaming New Zealand. But no, this guy's really praising New Zealand. New Zealand just had its first 4 cases in 102 days. So she, the prime minister, locked down Auckland immediately. The whole darn city for 4 people. That's fearless leadership. I'm so jealous. You're a CUCK. You are definitely a CUCK. If you think a whole city should be shut down because 4 people got sick and no one had been sick for 102 days. To shut down beautiful Auckland, one of the most beautiful freaking cities I've ever been to in my life. That woman in charge of that country is a disgrace and is a micromanager, power hungry, power trip. What a joke. What a joke that is. But look, they're fans like the CUCK in New York that think that's a good thing, that think that's fearless leadership. That isn't leadership. That's panic. That's weak hand. That's hysteria, man. All right. Now, and shout out to my buddies in New Zealand who are watching this right now, too. We got someone in Australia. Speaking about lockdowns, you're in Melbourne. That's sucking lately. That's one of the most beautiful cities also. And they're in the southern hemisphere over there in Oceania, they're really panicking And it's not even that big of a deal. There's 4 people are sick or something. Okay, Ben Shapiro says, okay, here we go, guys. Big difference between absentee ballots and universal mail-in voting. Let's go over it here, okay? Ben Shapiro sums it up. Absentee ballots are requested by voters. Universal mail-in voting involves the state sending everybody a ballot. So this is what happens. Everyone knows that the United States Postal Service is horrible. It shouldn't even exist. It should have been privatized a long time ago. You got these dudes, they deliver the mail, they in apartment buildings, they throw it on the freaking floor. Okay, so if you have absentee ballot, if you're scared about going to a voting booth and getting sick, you request an absentee ballot. It's not hard to do. It's been going on for years and years and years. What hasn't been going on for years and years and years is that these voting lists, I have seen voting lists before, okay? In Baltimore City, there were voting lists. There were people that were like 100 years old listed on the list. They were dead. They were clearly dead. So you send it to the 100-year-old house, and it just, someone else lives there then. So maybe that someone will vote for them. Right? They're not very, the lists are not very efficient, okay? Now, it's not the biggest, it shows you how inefficient the government is. They can't keep track of who should be, who's really a registered voter or not, okay? But it really doesn't cause a big problem unless you send ballots to everyone listed on your list, because some of the people don't live where they say they live anymore. Other people are going to get ballots. It causes mailmen throw in apartment buildings. You'll see the stuff all over the ground. Anyone can harvest them and pick them. There could be so much fraud that way. Now, again, voting is not, it's not on a godly level. God forbid. But so many people think it is. It is like a holy thing to do. Voting. It isn't a holy thing to do. But the point is that absentee balloting is not. It cannot be corrupted in the way that universal mail-in voting, it can clearly be. So because there are all sorts of people trying to make up so I understand why people would not want this, if they care about the integrity of the system, of the voting system, this does not add integrity to it, okay? It makes it so easy to vote 10 times, okay? To harvest ballots. It's so easy if this happened. And there have been accusations that I think they did do something like this in California before, and it skewed an election, etc. So in the thread that Ben Shapiro started, and good for Ben for clarifying this for people still don't understand that there's a huge difference. Because again, if you request it, it gets sent. It's coming to your place. Okay, it's not, and not everyone's going to request it. Not everybody votes. Not less than half the people vote. So they would never. Half the people are never going to request ballots anyway. Why send all those ballots to they throw it in the recycle bin? You go through recycle bins, you'd be able to find hundreds of them. Okay, and that could make a difference in a lot of different elections. Now, someone named Sky Johnson said, if they are exactly the same, we don't need to change anything. Vote absentee if you can't vote in person. Problem solved. There you go. There you go. So there are people that are saying, they're exactly the same, absentee, and so let's just do that. Why don't we do mail-in? Universal mail-in voting too. If they are exactly the same, then just stick with what we had before. If you can't vote in person. Now, the other big pig Matt said, simple answer here. If you can stand in line to check out at the store, you can stand in line to vote. Pound that like button. Okay. So for a lot of people, the virus is only going to be over when the government tells them it is. And it's just pathetic how dependent people are on the government and the lack of brain usage of people. And this also, this was, when is it over? When is it over? For me, it's over. It's been over. And I think for a lot of people, it's been over since the riots, definitely. But there's a huge amount of people that are just, in their houses, in their shackles. They're not leaving until the government tells them it's safe to go out. And this is a reminder to all my Bitcoin fans out there, friends out there. This is why modern monetary theory will work, because the people will blindly say, okay, yeah, you're printing trillions of dollars. You say it's worth something, it's worth something. The government tells me it's worth something, it's worth something. They will do exactly what the government tells them. They will ignore all inflation. They will just go with the flow, okay? So again, people are constantly asking, like, oh, how much can the United States print? How much can they print? Well, normal people will see the inflation happen, okay? But these other people that worship the government, they'll just be like, fine, yeah, whatever. It's dollars. It's worth something. And when it's worth less, they won't care. They won't question it at all. At all. All you Bitcoiners think all these people are going to get on Bitcoin one of these days. Roman Q said, have you read about California's proposed wealth tax? Even if you move out of California, you will still have to pay the wealth tax for 10 years. No, I have not heard about that. And I think that last part of it is probably unconstitutional, by the way. But I do know Elizabeth Warren wants to do a wealth tax. I know what a wealth tax frickin' is. It is horrifying, and it will get people to leave jurisdictions that implement them. Except the really rich CUCKs that just don't the billionaire ones, they pay it just to fit in. But the dudes that are like in the top 2%, top 3%, 4%, they will be they won't like that at all, and they will leave, and that will make a big difference. Bitcoin to the Moon says insanity in Melbourne. No mask when away from home, inside or outside, $200 fine. More than 5 kilometers from house, $1,600. Same for breaking the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. Oh my God. Why have a curfew? What's the point of the curfew? Most businesses shut down. It's so ridiculous. That is just pathetic. Pathetic. I mean, we don't, in America, it's not that bad anywhere in the United States. There's no curfews. Yes, that's horrible. And they've had so many less cases in Australia. What an overreaction. Really. Oh. All right. Go, but good to hear from you though, Bitcoin to the Moon. It's a sad situation there in Australia. Wow. Or in Melbourne at least. Let's move on here. We're almost done. Oh, I haven't talked about Israel yet. That's a big thing. I'm sure people are fast forwarding to that part of it. Everyone telecommuting for months has shown people that you don't need to live in dangerous cities anymore. If you consider them dangerous, you can live anywhere in anywhere. And if you're wealthy enough, and if you don't have many attack vectors tying you down, you don't have to be a tax slave. We talk about being a tax slave. You don't have to be a tax slave of the worst states anymore. And I've been living this life for quite some time. But I think more people are waking up to it, and more people are realizing I got to put myself in this position where I can telecommute now, because many people have been forced to telecommute, and many people. This is not going to be good for jurisdictions that have depended on people being naive about telecommuting. Okay, people are waking up, and unfortunately, some jurisdictions are becoming more and more dangerous because of this defund the police movement. So it's some of these cities, they're going to be cruising for a bruising, it looks like. And individuals who decide not to fit in, to not live in these so-called trendy places anymore, they're going to be saving themselves a lot of money. And they won't need to live in the suburbs of their cities and commute. Oh, there's disgusting commutes. Maybe they'll have to come to the office once a month, 2 times a month. They'll be able to do everything from home. Businesses are going to set up that way more. It's more efficient. Businesses won't want to pay those high rents anymore. This is something and I said before this, you could check old shows, that I thought the government should own no buildings. And if the government had to have workers, why couldn't the workers work from home? I mean, private business is going to do it before the government does it. Now, the following is not being hidden from you at all. All right, what I'm about to share. This is about the virus vaccine rush leaves little recourse for anyone it harms. Americans who suffer adverse reactions to coronavirus vaccines that the United States is racing to develop will have a hard time getting compensated for injuries from the drugs. So this is not like a secret out there. It's being rushed. If you get sick from it, you will not have legal compensation. Now, at the same time, we also, it's not being hidden, so don't be a sheep, okay? 50% of the population is immune to this thing, all right? 50% of the pop, for whatever reason, is immune to this. They might have had another cold once. It might be something else. It hasn't been totally figured out, but the statistics show that 50% of the population is immune. So I got a big question. When they come out with this rush vaccine, some of the people are such CUCKs, they're such sheep, they're such scaredy cats that they're immune to this thing. They're going to take this shot, and some of them might get sick from the shot because of various other reasons. Who knows what the heck's in the darn shot that's rushed? And there was no reason for them to take the shot in the first place. This is the society we're living in. People aren't using their heads anymore. But I just want to remind you, it's not a conspiracy or anything like that. It's out there in black and white in Bloomberg News that the rushed vaccine, you will have no legal compensation against if you get sick or if your kid dies from it, okay? You won't be able to sue anyone. So, and there are going to be plenty of people, even on the left, who are going to use their freaking brains and not get this stupid thing. But there are going to be plenty of people who are immune to it already who are going to get the thing, who are going to get the needle in them. So good luck. Use your freaking heads. So I would never, ever, ever get a rush vaccine. It's so ridiculous. Of something that's not a life-threatening disease. Now, the United Arab Emirates and Israel, it's been announced they're going to sign a peace treaty. And it's the Trump administration worked this deal out, apparently. Now, my biggest reaction is, if any other administration would have done this, it would have been such huge news. They would have been praising the president, Nobel Peace Prize, etc. Maybe not to that level, because it's not like UAE is bombing Israel, or they've never had direct conflict per se. I mean, United Arab Emirates probably in the past has funded wars against Israel, etc., etc. And for the last few years, there's been Israelis that have gotten into the United Arab Emirates, and there's been some informal talks that, they're not at war. But now it's going to be official. They're going to have embassies and open travel. United Arab Emirates is a very wealthy, that's Dubai and all that. The big skyscrapers, all this money has gone into that area. And a lot of money is in Israel, a lot of technology. So you got to admit, if there's cross-pollination between the two countries, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay, it helps both countries. It does financially. It definitely helps both countries, and other Arab nations like Bahrain and Oman probably are going to follow. Now, why is this happening now? Iran is an enemy of Israel. Iran is an enemy of the United Arab Emirates and Oman and Bahrain also. So you're going to see these countries, they're coming to their senses in one way. They want technology from Israel. Maybe they want protection from Israel too, from the Iranians. I don't think UAE has a very good military. Israel does. So I'm sure this deal, there's going to be technology that's going to be shared. There's be some defense. Israel will go to, if United Arab Emirates is attacked, maybe Israel will attack the country. I don't know all the ins and outs of the whole darn thing. So what did Israel have to give up? Israel didn't have to give up a darn thing. This is one of the few, usually Israel just gives up a bunch of stuff and they get a piece of paper. What Israel said is that they're not going to annex Judea and Samaria. Now, the funny thing is, if you've ever been to Judea and Samaria, like I have, if you've been on the ground, it's clearly part of Israel. Okay, it's already part of Israel. But for them to officially annex it, that would bother some countries. et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, the situation on the ground hasn't. And so some people are. I mean, I would love if Israel said we're annexing this. To me, I think they should. They should. Okay. They should say we're and I think it's just being delayed, the announcement, or maybe they're going to use another word one day, or they're going to wait till 2030 to say this is part of Israel. Okay, it's part of Israel. Okay, Judea and Samaria. Watch the video. I actually re-uploaded the video, the one Bitcoin show that I did from Samaria on January the 10th, 2019. It's here on the Proud Zionist Jew channel now. I upload. Coincidentally, it was totally a coincidence. Or maybe my mind, I was reading Netanyahu's mind. I uploaded the video before this peace treaty was announced, okay? Oddly enough. Again, my video is not about Bahrain. I mean, my video isn't about United Arab Emirates. It's about Judea and Samaria. So, yeah, so I, if this really comes about, if everything gets signed, I would consider going to United Arab Emirates now. Now, but beforehand, I've said on the show before, I had no intention of ever going there because I think you have to say what religion you are when you land, and I didn't want to get in any troubles there. But if they're going to be friends with Israel and recognize Israel as a normal country, which they should, and Israel, then I'll think about it. I'll definitely think about it because they're clearly becoming more Western and thinking more in a Western direction, in a freedom direction. And one would assume, and they have some policies that are pretty ridiculous over at UAE still, from what I've heard. But I've gone from saying I will never go there to now thinking about it after this situation. So we'll see. You never know. So this is very interesting. It's interesting. It's not. It's not like if they had a peace deal with Saudi Arabia. It's not like if they had a peace deal with Iran. It's not to that level, but it's something that's going to lead to other Arab countries having peace deals with Israel and economic prosperity being spread. And I think that's good, and freedom being spread, perhaps. All right, so we'll see what that leads to. We'll see what that leads to. By the way, mass movements are so tempting now for people. We're living in a time when individuals are so unique and so rare that just the default, I mean, the default is always collectivism, but like people are getting meaning from joining the BLM mass movement or the Trump mass movement, or just blindly not thinking for themselves anymore. Hey, and Derek said, I've really thought about this for a while. Is religion a form of collectivism? Yes. It is. It is it is definitely a form of you're a member of a collective there. Yeah, you're following certain rules. It depends what level you take it to, how much of a collectivist you are. But it can be totally collectivism in a religion. I mean, definitely it's definitely a form of it. It's definitely a form of it. And you can take it from in a pretty extreme form to not so extreme form, where you're in pretty much an individual in the collective, where you can, where you think for yourself, but there is still a connection to a group of people. I mean, is anyone truly ever 100% individual? I mean, they're a member of a family. They have to look out for their family. They have to. So still, you should strive to be the biggest individual that you possibly can be. Individualism is quite an accomplishment. So at the same time, what religions do, there is some moral clarity in that religions bring to people. Okay, and so if you're going to join a collective, if you've got to, it's probably better to be more involved with a one that's got some morals than some secular insanity one. All right, but those secular collectives become religion. We go back and forth. All right, so interesting thought on your part. Now, oh my God, we got to get this show done with, dudes. I got to go to sleep now. But are more people joining religions now? Or are they joining these secular mass movements? They're joining more secular mass movements now. these really unthinking ones. Okay, in a religion, you can still use your head. You can still use your brain. Definitely get. There are plenty of smart people who don't blindly follow what their religious leader tells them to do. Okay. All right. Now, Biden wants to have a national mask mandate. Just continuing the hysteria. Living is risky. I mean, that's what I when someone wants to have a national mask mandate, or when people want to have curfews, just use this line: living is risky. Living has always been risky. Let's move on. Oh God, be compliant to the experts. That is just that's the lot. That unfortunately, instead of people saying living is risky, they say no. I'm compliant, and I will blindly worship what the experts, the so-called experts, tell me to do. Carl Denninger is linked to below. Market Ticker, as I've said before, he's got statistics saying that we're getting close to herd immunity into some parts of the country. Herd suppression, and he goes over why why we're there. I'm not going to get into all the numbers. That dude definitely knows what he's talking about. I read a lot of different people. His grasp of statistics. He's pretty much got the best grasp of statistics of anybody that's been talking about this virus. He doesn't get national coverage. He should. Kanye West running for president. I think some people are spazzing out about it. I think the people that are spazzing out about it do not give black people credit at all. They think, oh, if he runs in a place where there are a lot of black people will vote for him instead of Biden because he's black. Dude, come on. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. People will vote for Kanye because he's a joke candidate or whatever. If your candidate can't win an election because a joke candidate is winning, then figure out something else, okay? These people are so freaking, everything is so identity politics in some people's mind. Is that if someone like a joke candidate runs and he happens to be black, they get paranoid they're going to lose the black vote. It's so mindless. This identity politics is so mindless. And him running for president shows how mindless it is. Shows how these political hacks are just base everything on race and base everything on the collective. And that they freak out that a black guy is running and that could hurt the Democrats. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. My thoughts on Kamala Harris. I don't have much to say. It's not a shock that he picked her as the vice president. She stands for nothing. She has successfully, she's very close to sleeping her way to the top now. The highest political position on earth. She'll end up being president if Biden gets elected president. So yeah, she has slept her way to the top. So she's attained that goal almost. And she will say anything. She will. So I don't think if she actually became president, since she stands for nothing, just the highest bidder will tell her what to do. So the virtue signalers in Silicon Valley, they like her a lot, since she's from California, and they get to feel good. Oh, a black woman, that makes me feel special. So they'll like bribe her to not be as mean to the mean, quote unquote, mean to the big tech. Big tech will probably be happy if she ends up being president. She clearly has radical views and everything, but she won't implement them because whoever pays her the most, and I just want to say she's very similar to the women who sleep with Trump. They sleep with Trump for power and glory, and that's what she did. She slept with Willie Brown for power and glory. So it's very, very interesting. It's very interesting because people don't like Trump because he's these women. He goes from one woman to another. Well, she's the kind of woman that's on the other side of the equation. All right, so it's a dirty, disgusting game. She's played it and he's played it. There's not much difference between the two people. They both stand for very little now, and are willing to do anything for power. Sociopathy, right there. All right, defiance over compliance. We're going to do the question here. You're saying personal responsibility is new counterculture is more relevant than ever in 2020? Yes, it is. Bitcoin to the moon. And we're going to end this we're going to end this on a 2020 note from Chris Black, who's a very honest dude in the cryptocurrency space. He speaks his mind. He's not scared. He's been on my show quite a few times. 2020 will be remembered as the year that fear and guilt completely overwhelmed logic and common sense. For the 80%ers, I added that for the 80%ers. So again, 2020 will be remembered as the year that fear and guilt completely overwhelmed logic and common sense. You don't have to use your logic, use your common sense. That involves using your head, dudes. Because if you don't use your head, you will succumb to the fear, and you will succumb to the guilt that people are trying to throw into your face constantly. This has been a huge year of people trying to guilt people. And you got to have a strong hand against that stuff and just laugh it off. People call you the big racist word. You just say, okay, yeah, great. Move along, dude. Move along. Call me racist. That's fine. You will not be guilted. You will not be shamed. You will not be feared. You are a unique beast. If you're in a Bitcoin overlay, you cannot be canceled. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, pound that like button. You get this show every freaking Saturday night. We'll be back Sunday on the main channel with the One Bitcoin Show. Friday is This Week in Bitcoin on the main channel. Conviction, dudes. I'll say hi to you guys in this chat. Spread this on Twitter. Spread this all over social media. People got to know. People have to know that this backup channel is live every Saturday night. Thank you.